Hello? Hi. Can everyone hear me? Good afternoon. I'm really excited to be here. This is my second time at the PA show. I was here last year. Was anyone here at my session last year? Oh, great. I spoke on a completely different topic called the power of no. Can you hear me? Oh, do I? Can you hear me now? Okay, great. Yes, so I'm really excited to be here. I'm looking forward to sharing on this very important topic called prioritizing self-care for executives and personal assistants. So, what we're going to run through today, oh, okay. A quick agenda, I'll share a little bit about myself. I'll share some of the unique responsibilities faced by yourselves. We'll look at the high stress environment and some of the impact on you. And then we'll move on to looking at some common roadblocks to prioritizing self care, debunking the selfish misconception. When people hear self care, most times we think it's selfish. And then we'll do a very short self care quiz to see how we're doing. And then I'll be sharing some practical self care strategies and then a self care mindset that you should have and the risk of neglecting self care and then our next steps. So, a little bit about me. I wear several hats. In my former life, I used to work as a business analyst, and then I transitioned into becoming a productivity coach for working women. And I also work with organizations as well, helping them with their productivity and their personal aspirations. I'm also a certified grief and loss specialist. I am the founder of My Little Warrior Child. It's a CIC for bereaved parents to support any parent who has gone through child loss, because that was my experience with grief. And also, I co-host a podcast, also around grief, called When Life Stops podcast. And, oh, I forgot to put there, I'm a wife, and I've got 3 children. Now, obviously, I'm sure like you, we are all busy. We have a busy life apart from work, in other things that you do as well. And so, being a busy mom, running so many companies and doing different things, I began to understand the importance of self-care because the truth is that we cannot pour from an empty cup. Many of us are running, on empty, and we're expecting that we'll still be as productive as we should be. But that's not the case, and that's why this topic is very important. So, obviously, I'm sure that there are a lot of challenges you face as an EA or PA, but there were 3 I wanted to share today which has an impact on your self-care. Now, the first one, and as I share this unique responsibilities, I just want to know if any of them resonates with you. And she's already putting her hand up exactly. Wearing many hats, juggling priorities. Now, obviously, as a EA or PA, you're supporting your executives who are also busy, and you're looking at different demands on the job. And this can involve deadlines, urgent deadlines, managing conflicting priorities. Anyone, right? There's so many things that you're doing, right, as a PA. And obviously, that constant pressure to be able to do all of this in a fast-paced environment can lead to stress and burnout. The other thing is that as PAs and EAs, there are a lot of things that you hear that are confidential, and you have to be strict, right? And so, not having a safe space to be able to share things that go on in the office can add on more stress to you. And so the constant need for discretion can create an environment where you feel isolated and can impact your mental well-being. And then lastly, you might find that there is a thin line between your personal and professional lives. You find that when you go back home, you're still picking up the phone to check, oh, does my executive need me? I see you nodding there. Does my executive need me? And so that thin line can cause you to, there's a blur between your personal and your professional life. And sometimes that can contribute to work-life imbalance, impacting on your well-being. Now, let's talk about the high stress environment and the impact. And the reason why I wanted us to look at this is because if you're not aware that the high stress environment you are in is having an impact on you, you wouldn't prioritize your self care. You think, I can still keep going, I can cope, right? So, the health and safety executive website, they did a stats, and the stats says that 39% of workers reported experiencing work-related stress in the last year, and 17% of workers reported work as the main concern of their stress. So as a PA or EA, it's possible that work is causing you anxiety, and sometimes you just find, you're having palpitation, and you're wondering why. Why am I agitated? Why am I feeling anxious? And that's because of the pressures you go through at work. Also, again, sometimes you find that you're emotionally exhausted. Anyone find that they're emotionally exhausted sometimes, right? You're like, why am I exhausted? It's because of all the things you have to do. You need to manage different expectations. There are complex interpersonal dynamics in the workplace that you need to manage. And then lastly, work-life disharmony. Most times we hear about work-life balance, but I call it work-life disharmony or work-life harmony, where obviously your work is part of your life, and when there's a disbalance somewhere or disharmony, you find that that can also cause mental exhaustion. It can cause you to burn out as well. So realizing that there is an impact helps you know that I need to begin to prioritize my self-care, because if I don't, there's going to be an impact on me as a person. Okay. So it's all well and good to talk about prioritizing our self-care. And I'm sure this isn't the first time you're hearing the word self-care. But then there are some common roadblocks. And so it's good for us to be aware of what these common roadblocks are so that you can navigate through the roadblocks. The first one there is the internalized guilt and responsibility that you have. And again, I'm sure that as an EA or a PA, you have this sense of responsibility towards your executive needs, right? You don't want to let them down. And a part of you almost feels like their success is directly hinges on your availability to them, right? So in your mind, you feel, I can't afford to do any self-care if there's so much going on at work. I need to be available at all times. So that internalized guilt and responsibility can cause you to feel like I cannot afford to do any self-care. Then you have your time pressures and demands. Obviously, because of the nature of the work that you have, juggling different priorities, you almost feel like there's little or no room for self-care activities. And I'm sure sometimes when you think of self-care, you think, oh, it's going for a spa or, lounging and chilling. It's beyond that, and we'll look at that. So with your work pressures and work demands, you might feel, I don't have time to do any self-care right now. I need to just get on with my work. The last roadblock is about lack of awareness and boundaries. The truth is that because there is this blur line between our work and our personal lives, you might not be fully aware of your own needs as an EA or PA, or you might lack strategies to set healthy boundaries to say no when there's a lot of demands on you. Does anyone identify with any of these common roadblocks? Let me check in the room. Okay, I can see some hands. So of course, the fact that now that we know about these common roadblocks, let's find how to navigate through that. The first step in us prioritizing our self-care is we need to debunk the selfish misconception that we have when it comes to self-care. Most people, when they hear the word self-care, they think it's selfish. Anyone here feels that way? Like, I can't take time for myself, right? It's selfish. So I need to just make sure that I'm available for my executives and also available for my family. But the truth is that that belief stems from a misunderstanding of what the purpose of self-care. Self-care really is empowerment. It empowers you as an individual. So we need to begin to realize that self-care is proactive. It's not indulgent. You taking care of your personal and mental well-being is not a luxury. Rather, see it as an investment, knowing that you become more productive when you take care of yourself. You are more efficient, you are more productive and resilient when you have taken care of yourself. Remember what I said before, you cannot pour from an empty cup, right? So if your cup is already empty, like what else can you pour out of it, right? The other thing we also need to realize is that self care benefits everyone. It benefits your executives, it benefits your family when you take time to take care of yourself. Also, what you're doing by taking care of yourself is that because you're able to, you find that you're less irritable, and so it benefits everyone that is surrounded by you, your families, your executives, your colleagues. And then lastly, you're setting a positive example when you prioritize your self care. When you prioritize your self-care, you're sending a powerful message across, even to your executives, that hey, we need to begin to prioritize self-care. You're setting an example for your colleagues. You're setting an example for your families. If you have children or a spouse, you're setting an example for them by taking that first step to develop a healthier lifestyle. So I want you to know that self-care is not selfish. It is not a sign of weakness. Instead, you are going to be more empowered when you begin to take care of yourself. So quickly, I want us to do a very short self-care quiz. Now, typically, when I work with clients, I usually conduct a more comprehensive self-care assessment to help them determine areas that require attention. And I'll share some of that at the end. You can take that away. But now I'm going to share just a few questions. I don't want you to overthink the answers, just write. So I want you to rate each statement on a scale of 1 to 5, where 1 is never true and 5 is always true. So if you have a pen, paper to do this quick assessment, that would be fab. So the first question there says, I feel energized and able to tackle my tasks throughout the day. So write a 1 if that is never true, or 5 if it's always true, or maybe you're in between, 2, 3, 4. The next statement there says, I manage stress effectively and rarely feel overwhelmed or emotionally drained. And please note, this is not a judgment exercise, it is an awareness exercise, right? We're not here to beat anyone up or to beat ourselves up. It is more for our awareness. Okay? I can disconnect from work outside of office hours and prioritize personal time. I prioritize healthy habits like eating nutritious meals, getting enough sleep, and exercising regularly. And the last one there says, I take time for myself to distress and practice mindfulness techniques like meditation, journaling, prayer, or deep breathing. Okay, everyone done? Okay. So if you got mostly 1s or 2s, it might mean that you've been neglecting your self-care and you haven't had time to prioritize, and that's okay, right? That's why we're here today, to learn some techniques on how to prioritize self-care. And it's possible that you're experiencing stress. So if you got lots of 1s and 2s, if you got mostly 3s, you're on the right track, but could benefit from incorporating more consistent self-care practices into your routine. Mostly 4s or 5, you're likely prioritizing self-care, so well done. And you're probably experiencing I see some 4s and 5s here in the room. That's good. And again, even if you're a 1 or a 2, it's fine. The key thing is about knowing where you are now in order to change or to change some of the habits that you have. So let's look at some practical self-care strategies. Now, these are probably things you've heard before, but need to now start incorporating into your lifestyle. Okay? And obviously, I understand that the nature of your role is quite busy and demanding. So I'm not going to share anything too out of the extraordinary. It will be things that you can incorporate into your current lifestyle. So the first thing is taking micro breaks. Now, I'm sure some of you are like, when maybe you have an hour to go on your lunch break, and like, I can't go on my 1 hour lunch break, right? So instead of thinking of taking a long break, think of micro breaks, right? And you can do this every 5 minutes on the hour. Now, if 5 minutes is too much, start with 1 minute and build up from there. So every 1 minute, you can get up, stretch, look out the window, go grab water. And obviously, I know sometimes you're deep in the middle of work, but each time you remember, do it. Now, I'm not trying to advertise Apple Watch or anything, but my watch, and I think most of these new watches now, every hour, it does like a little vibration on my arm. And so that reminds me to stand up from my desk or do something, shake a little or move, right? Instead of being stuck at my desk for a long time. So take micro breaks, okay? Use that micro break to either take deep breaths or, like I said, go grab water, stretch, say a prayer, look out the window. Just do something different from your usual routine, okay? So you can start up from 1 minute and build it up to 5 minutes. Because every 1 minute you take a break will make a difference to your well-being, your attention span, and your stress level. The next thing is to incorporate tech-free time. And I'm sure some of you are already cringing. Like, many of you are glued to your phone. But the truth is, as much as tech is great, we need to take breaks from technology. So what you can do is you can start by dedicating at least 30 minutes a day to not use your phone. It could be early in the morning. Most times when we wake up, the first thing you do is grab your phone. Do something else. Go brush your teeth. Go grab tea or something. Don't grab your phone. Don't let your phone be the first thing you grab early in the morning. That's also helping with your self-care. Or it could be during your lunch break. Tell yourself, during my lunch break, I'm not going to touch my phone. Or maybe when you get home in the evening, or just before bed. And use that time to do something else. Read a book, connect with family, spend time in nature, listen to music, engage in a hobby. Journaling is so powerful. In fact, my last book that I wrote is on Enhancing the Power of Journaling, on how to journal. It's such a simple tool, but it helps with your self-care and your stress and managing your stress. The third thing you want to do is fuel your body right. Something my health coach will say is you're either eating for energy or you are eating to just, I don't know, most times we eat, right, to just put things in there. But when you fuel your body with the right type of food, it gives you energy instead of draining your energy. When we eat junk food or processed food, it drops our energy levels drop. You might have a high, but then there's a spike and then you go downwards. So we need to incorporate more healthy foods into our diet and eating less of processed foods and junk food. And I know again, it's not, sometimes you're like you grab whatever you see, but we need to get to a point where we begin to plan our meals so that we're eating right. Always drink water. Have your water bottle with you to drink water throughout the day, because this would also help with your mental well-being and your emotional well-being and your physical well-being. Move your body, right? So this number 4 can go hand in hand with the first one there. When I say move your body, now again, sometimes when people hear the word exercise, they're like, I don't have time to exercise. Find something you enjoy doing. If it's dancing, start, shake a little, move a little, right? Look for something you enjoy doing. If it's swimming, do that instead. You don't have to go to the gym to be, to do exercise. You can do it right at your desk. So begin to move your body, and that would also help you with your self care. And then lastly, set boundaries. We need to begin to learn how to say no, right? Like I mentioned, my last talk last year was on the power of no. I'm not sure if it should be somewhere on YouTube, so you can go find that talk. I went extensively into how to say no the right way. And saying no doesn't mean saying no outrightly. It might mean giving other suggestions. It might mean saying it's no for now. But again, we need to get into a place where we stop saying yes to everything. Because the more you keep saying yes, the more your mental capacity and emotional capacity is affected. And then my bonus tip is surround yourself with loved ones. Surround yourself, have a support group. The lady who spoke before me talked about the admin group. Be a part of a community where they understand what it means to be an EA or a PA and the struggles that you go through. You can discuss it with each other and help each other learn how to how to take care of yourselves and prioritize your self-care. Okay. In order for those tips to work, we need to change our mindsets about self-care. We already debunked the mentality that self-care is selfish. And so we need to get to a place where we begin to reframe our thinking about self-care and begin to see it as an investment in your well-being and productivity. Schedule it like an important meeting. Put it in your diary. My self-care time. You can, color code it or whatever you want to do to make it fancy. Self-care time. Because the truth is, if you don't schedule it, it's not going to happen. The same way you schedule other things is how you need to schedule time for self-care. Okay? So put it in your diary. See it as an investment into yourself. Also, you want to focus on the why behind your self-care. You need to have a specific reason why self-care needs to now be priority for you. Is it that you want to be more present with your family? Or do you want to improve your energy levels or manage stress? Attach a specific reason to why you want to prioritize self-care. And then it is more likely that you will prioritize self-care. And then a quick word for anyone who might have experienced loss, any kind of emotional loss. It is doubly important that you take time out to take care of yourself because you've gone through something traumatic. And so you need to get to a point where you're being kind to yourself, you're showing yourself compassion, and taking time out to take care of your emotional well-being. And that might involve talking to a specialist who can help you walk through the trauma that you've gone through as a result of your loss. So what are some risks of neglecting self-care? It's almost like I want to pass this message across, where from today, self-care needs to be at the forefront of your mind. If we neglect our self-care, we're going to experience burnout and decreased performance. We already spend 1/3 of our time at work, and it's possible that as a PA or EA, you spend a lot more of that time at work. And so neglecting your self-care, not putting that first, might lead to burnout and decreased performance. When you're constantly pushing yourself without taking breaks or addressing your needs, burnout is what is going to happen, and we don't want that, right? You might even find that you're making a lot more mistakes at work because you haven't taken care of yourself. Also, it can result into physical, mental, and emotional issues. Neglecting your self-care can have severe physical consequences, including a weakened immunity, increased risk of chronic diseases, and sleep problems. Now, many of us find that we rest when our bodies tell us to rest. So suddenly you find that you're unwell and you're forced to rest. We shouldn't wait till our body says, no, I can't do this anymore. We need to be proactive when it comes to our self-care in order for us not to have physical, mental, and emotional health issues. Also, when we neglect self-care, we might find that our relationships become strained. You find that you're more irritable. You're not um, you're not showing up as the full version of yourself, and that can lead to strained relationships. So you see why I said self-care benefits everyone. And when like I said, I work with moms a lot and women, and one of the things I always tell them is, you need to take care of yourself before you can take care of your family. Most times when parents are grumpy, it's because they haven't taken care of themselves. It's because they are running on empty. And this also applies in your work as well. If you're running on empty, you find that you're more snappy, you're irritable, and then people are wondering what's going on. Why is he or she upset? But once you prioritize self-care, you find that you're able to give more freely, you enjoy your relationships better, and that helps with your quality of life as well. So we already looked at, just to recap, we looked at some of the unique responsibilities that are faced by yourselves, the high stress environment and the impacts. We've looked at common roadblocks to prioritizing self-care. We've debunked the selfish misconception. We took that self-care quiz, and then I shared some practical self-care strategies. We looked at changing our mindset, reframing our mindset on why we need to prioritize self-care, and we looked at the risk of neglecting self-care. So over to you. What are you going to do differently to prioritize your self-care? There needs to be one action step, at least one action step you are going to take. I know you're going to, you've taken so much away from today. The fact that you're here today is a step, towards your self-care because you're not at your desk, right? And one step you can take is by, like I mentioned, even though we did I gave you the 5 questions, this link will show you a more comprehensive self-care assessment to take. And you can begin to, once you take that assessment, you begin to see areas where you need to work on, the changes you need to make, whether it's in your physical well-being or in your relationships or your mental well-being or even your connection, your relationship with technology. So by doing that quiz, you can begin to see what steps to take. So any questions as we wrap up? That's the same link if you want to take that as well. Yeah, I think I have. Yeah, there you go.
The bit about balancing boundaries between business and your personal life, since COVID, that's very hard
Yeah.
to do. So
Yeah.
what tips do you have?
Okay, so if I got your question right, it's about how to set a boundary between. Yeah, okay, that's a great question. So the question is, how do you? I mean, since COVID, obviously, that line is so thin between your personal life and your professional life. I think it's by having a conversation, right, with your executives. If you can already tell that it's affecting your well-being, right? So I'll look at it from 2 angles. If it's already affecting your well-being, I think it's about having that conversation on knowing what to prioritize in the workplace and saying, look, I've been struggling, but I want to be able to do my job, and almost having that conversation where, and I know it's hard, right? I'm not saying it's easy because you saying you want to have a closing time might be like, what do you mean by that? But I think until we begin to take that step and we all come together and say, you know what, we want to be able to have a situation where if I don't answer my phone, it just means I'm dealing with family stuff or something. So I think as we begin to set little boundaries in place, we're also going to be teaching our executives that we're not always available 24/7. People treat us the way we present ourselves. So if you always present yourself as being available 24/7, then your executives will think you're available 24/7, right? But when we begin to put out of office notification, so that I remember one of my clients who was always always in work mode, I told her to put her out of office, and she was so scared. She was like, "What if there's a pushback?" I was like, "Why not try it out?" And can you believe, after she put her out of office, she wasn't getting any more emails in the evening because she put that tiny boundary. So you can use your out of office. You can use your. You can say that once you get home, I might not be on my phone. Oh, I called you yesterday. Oh, sorry, I was with the family. So as we begin to have that communication with our executives, we are also training them and showing them that you're not going to be available 24/7. And that way, you find that you become a much productive and efficient executive. I don't know if that helps. Does that help? Okay. Any other questions? Okay. So I'd love you to connect with me. I'm on LinkedIn. You can connect with me, send me a message to let me know what changes you're going to make when it comes to your self care. Remember, self care is not selfish. Self care is an investment into your well being, and it helps you to become a more productive and more efficient PA or EA. Thank you. That's the end of my presentation.